We've talked about act consequentialist theories or act utilitarianism in particular, and what we've seen is that the view has some troubles with being overly demanding and allowing some pretty heinous rights violations. If you'll remember the transplant case with our unhoused guy getting his organs harvested, or the angry mob case where we are supposed to hand over an innocent person to an angry mob. Both of those cases seem like they would maximize the good, but they don't seem to intuitively be the morally correct action. Rule consequentialism might be able to solve those issues, but it comes with some problems of its own. So let's talk about it. Rule consequentialism, as far as I understand, was sort of first devised by a student of Jeremy Bentham, the guy who founded Act Utilitarianism. And this guy's name is John Stuart Mill. Now, Mill saw some problems with the ACT view and sort of developed his own view. I'll just kind of put this out there that I don't think that every Mill scholar is convinced that he is a rule consequentialist or rule utilitarian. I am not a Mill scholar. I am not going to weigh in on that debate, but we're going to treat him as one and at least look at how the view can develop here. So what we're going to see, again, just kind of heinous rights violations, and the fact that, is this really how we go about thinking about morality? Do we really evaluate each individual act? Don't we sometimes have rules, at least, that we operate on? So this is the idea of rule utilitarianism, or rule consequentialist theories in general. What we're going to do, so instead of evaluating each act, we are going to come up with a set of rules that taken together would maximize the good. So the best rules we can find. And then what we do is the right act is just the one that matches up with those rules. This kind of makes sense of a lot of the ways we tend to think about things, right? Don't we have little rules of thumb that we use to sort of operate? I don't seem to really be evaluating it every single time. So maybe this has got something going for it. Plus, it gets our transplant and angry mob cases right away. Because presumably, right, one of the rules we're going to have in our system is a rule against killing, right? Because imagine, right, if we didn't have that rule, the consequences would be much worse compared to if we did have that rule. So almost certainly we would have a rule against killing. And so we are not going to kill the patient and harvest his organs in the transplant case. Similarly, we are not going to allow innocent people to get, strung up by an angry mob. This is just going to be a violation of a rule, something like protect innocent life or something like that. And so it's going to be able to handle these cases quite cleanly. It won't be so demanding, but it does have a pretty serious problem going for it. What we're going to do is look at a dilemma for rule consequentialism. And what a dilemma is just sort of broadly put, a dilemma is when you have two options and they're both bad. That's what a dilemma is. So on the first horn of this dilemma, that's what philosophers call, the sides of the dilemma. The first horn of this dilemma is the idea that okay, what is going to happen if we just follow these rules to their logical conclusion, right? So let's say we have a rule that says don't kill. And again, that seems like a very good rule to have. Okay, well, what if the Joker is threatening to blow up a hospital and Batman is off doing something else? You've got a clear shot at the Joker. You can finally end this thing, but no, we've got a rule that says don't kill. Well, that seems a little bit silly, right? This idea of rule worship. So why don't we then add an exception to the rule? This seems to be kind of an obvious move here. If we add exceptions to the rule, though, okay, so here's the rule we start with, don't kill, okay? Well, what about cases of self-defense? Okay, well, let's add an exception. Don't kill, except for cases of self-defense. Well, what about like soldiers at war? Okay. Don't kill except in self-defense or if you're a soldier at war. Well, what if it's to save lives? Well, what if this? What if that? What if this? We're going to keep adding exceptions, right? And guess what's going to happen? Eventually, we're going to have so many exceptions that we're going to get the same results as act consequentialism. Because all we're really doing is going case by case and thinking about, well, what about this case? Wouldn't breaking the rule maximize the good here? And wouldn't breaking the rule maximize the good in this case? We just wind up as act consequentialists, but like way dumber, right? Because like now we just have this like incoherently long rule that says don't kill except for blah, 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 blah. Like this incredibly unwieldy notion of a rule that like nobody could practically follow. In short, this just kind of collapses, just turns into act consequentialism. This is where the dilemma comes in. We either add exceptions or we don't. That seems like the only two options, right? We either add exceptions to the rules or we don't. If we add exceptions to the rules, this is going to trigger our collapse objection, right? Like rule consequentialism is just going to collapse into act. It's going to get the exact same results in every single case. It's not going to be a different theory, except that it's just going to be kind of dumb, right? If we refuse to add exceptions, this makes the view incoherent. Think about it. I have a rule that says don't kill. And you say, okay, well, what about self-defense? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to add an exception for self-defense. Our rules are supposed to be set up to maximize the good. We want the best possible rules. Well, here's a rule that's better than my rule, right? Your rule of don't kill except in self-defense does a better job of maximizing the good than my rule that just says don't kill. I am not picking rules that maximize the good. This is a terrible, devastating result for the view. This is a very, very serious dilemma that has put or had put rule consequentialism basically in the ground for decades, until a philosopher named Brad Hooker came along and started revising and revitalizing the theory.